What's going on, everybody? This is John Jake Gaming on the mic here, coming at you with a brand new episode of the FCS Dynasty here on NCAA 06, and also featuring that next mod as we are closing in on that halfway point in year number 4 of this series, and we got 8 games on tap, so you do not want to miss a single thing. Make sure you go ahead and smash that like button for me. Hit that subscribe button as well if you do happen to be brand new to the channel, and we will jump right into the action. Not going to wait at all, as we got a top 25 game to start this episode, and Kent State, they are going to be put on the ropes early on as Tyrell Williams, he is actually going to go ahead and throw an interception here, and the Chippewas of Central Michigan, they're going to try to make things interesting here. 1st and 10 from the 36. Marcus Watkins comes out onto the field, tries to throw it out on the flat, but then also gets intercepted. And Watkins does make up for the mistake by going through and making the tackle, but a desperate miscue for sure that could have given the lead to Central Michigan, but instead, we're going to see Kent State pull away here a little bit towards the end of the first half, as this was a very defensive battle that we do get to see. A 12-0 lead after the touchdown as the last play of the first half. Watson's going to try to throw it up before we go into the halftime locker room, but it does also get intercepted as well. Does not even reach the end zone, so even if that pass was completed, it would have not gone for a first down. So the Golden Flashes will take a 12-0 lead into the halftime locker room. But then we jump into the second half of action. Watkins gonna throw one right on the money, and the speed, that speed is simply going to take over as Watkins does a great job throwing that crossing pattern. And while that will be a nice score for Central Michigan, that was actually as close as it was going to get. So Kent State, they do end up winning this football game. They win by a final score of 18-7, and that does allow the Kent State Golden Flashes to remain in the top 25 as of right now. But, you know, definitely have some things that both teams need to work on. Central Michigan, they do end up losing their second game of the season already. They will fall to 3-2, while the Golden Flashes are now 3-1 on the year. But now we jump onto another team that is trying to make their first FCS playoff appearance. We got the Portland State Vikings going all the way across the country to take on the UMass Minutemen. And this Minutemen squad, they are trying to make a statement here at home. They have also not made a single FCS playoff appearance, at least over the course of this series as of yet. But they are coming in ranked in those, mid to high 30s. So a win against Portland State could really set them up for success here. But they gotta find a way to stop the Sherman tank. And Sherman just runs right through the middle of the defense on a halfback dive and runs it all the way to about that 40-yard line. So a huge first down here early, but we got a fumble on the ground as well, and it ends up being picked up by the UMass defense, so they will hold it down as of right now, and that will mean UMass will not be allowing any points being scored, at least as of yet, as we'll go ahead and see some throwing, or at least trying to get a throw going. But Palmer is going to go ahead and get his 3rd sack of the season, and that will make it 3rd and 24. Trying to drop back, but it's going to be a safety in the backfield. And that is how the first points get scored. A safety, of all plays, gives the Portland State Vikings a 2-0 lead. And we already got a couple of safeties in this episode. There was also one in the Kent State game as well. So Portland State, they could not do anything with the football when they got it after the safety, so it does remain a 2-0 game. However, that being said, that defense is really stepping up for the Vikings as we get yet another fumble recovery. That's going to set up the Vikings extraordinarily well. They're going to get across midfield here, and we'll see if we can finally see a touchdown being scored. few plays later, 1st and 10 from the 30-yard line. Pierre is going to hand it off to the Sherman tank, and the Sherman, he's going to go down the left-hand side, and he's going to be untouched in the end zone. Touchdown, Vikings. And Portland State is going to expand their lead after the fumble recovery. They go for the extra point, and that extra point is going to be good. And so a 9-0 lead. As Sherman looks to get a little bit, he's feeling himself a little bit, actually does a little bit of triculation, but they instead gonna throw an interception. That's usually why only the quarterback typically throws the football. The Sherman tank making a big mistake there, but we'll see if UMass can capitalize as they're still down 9-0 here in the second half. Dropping back, facing some pressure once again. And just been a relentless pass rush that UMass has had to deal with. They have to go ahead and punt this football away. Back out. Down to the left-hand side. It's Ryan Otis who was trying to take the ball downfield. But he puts the ball on the ground as well. And UMass is actually going to recover. So UMass trying to stay alive in this football game, but still cannot take advantage. They have been absolutely putrid on offense today. Only 11 yards of total offense for UMass. It's been a tough look for them for sure as they try to get the ball over to the Sherman tank. And the Sherman tank actually puts the football on the ground as well. So a little bit of an ugly game, sloppy game here for both teams as well. We get another football on the ground, another turnover. That will allow UMass to, again, still remain in this football game. And in a close score like this, you only need a couple of big plays. We'll see if they can get one. Throwing down the right-hand side, he's got his receiver. And it's going to be in the end zone. And sure enough, UMass is going to be right back into the football game. How about them apples? 9-7 now is going to be your score. So, that being said, 3rd and long for Portland State. They also need to get a touchdown on the board. 9 points isn't going to be enough. Pierre looks to the left-hand side. He's going to find his receiver. And it's in double coverage, but still is going to be able to come down and make that catch. That was a nice dime that Carl Pierre threw there. And it does get the Portland State Vikings in UMass territory. But can it get points on the board? 3rd and 16. And they find a way to convert the first down. And that will be a red zone opportunity. Just tight end just running loose with it. And it now sets up a red zone shot. And Portland State has been solid on the year. 81% on the season. Going to be a little bit higher now as Portland State finds the end zone. Critical touchdown. And all they are going to need all of a sudden, you just got to get that extra point on the board. And all of a sudden, you're looking at a 2-possession football game. Nice run there by Carroll. As that makes it 16-7. UMass cannot score. So UMass trying to get him off the field without allowing any more points on the board. And Sherman is going to wrap up this football game. Portland State, they will go ahead and they should escape. And they certainly do just that. Portland State remains undefeated on the season. They now go to 4-0 after a 23-7 win over the UMass Minutemen. A little bit closer than when it was back in year number 3. These two teams did meet up towards the end of the regular season. But Portland State, they got one out, and they are going to stay alive here in the FCS playoff hunt. Top 10 teams, so they actually are also in play to get one of those first-round buys as well. Still got some things to sort out in the Big Sky Conference, but Portland State, they look like they're for real. So we'll see if another team is for real as Southeast Missouri State, they go and play up against another top 25 opponent after a really surprising loss. They lost to Southeastern Illinois, and it was just not just the way that they lost really convincingly as well. So we'll see if they can right the ship against Tennessee Martin, who is actually tied for first place right now in the new look Big Ten Conference, the de facto Ohio Valley Conference, as Tennessee Martin seeks to go 3-0 here in conference play so that they can be in sole possession of first place. We'll see if the Skyhawks are ready to soar, or will the Red Hawks win the day led by that ferocious defense that they typically have. But first, we start with Travis Johnson, who's going to go and throw to the right-hand side and throws it up into the air. It does end up being caught. Touchdown, Southeast Missouri State. And that's what they were missing in that previous episode. They were just not getting that production that they were looking for from their offense. And I'm not even asking that offense to be really that productive. You just got to find a way to put points on the board. If you can get to 20-something points, this team can beat anybody in the entire country 9 times out of 10. But it's also important that you keep that football from touching the ground. And unfortunately, this running back, he did not understand the assignment. He puts the football on the ground. So that does mean that early on, this game is still really tight as Johnson looks over the left-hand side. He's going to find his receiver. His receiver, the slant gun, is going to take it all the way into the end zone. He'll even dive it in as well. Touchdown, Redhawks. And Travis Johnson is going to get his second passing touchdown of the afternoon. A critical performance so far as they create some distance from the Skyhawks. Moving into the second half now, Travis Johnson does get a little shaken up, so the backup quarterback does come into the game, but he's going to overthrow his target there. That is Kavion Carter, who does garner that interception inside the 5-yard line, so they're going to be deep in their own territory, but a lost opportunity to expand this lead further. But facing third down, though, we'll see if Donnie Jacobs can create some more breathing room, as Jacobs going to be in the shotgun, drops back, facing some pressure, does not get rid of it, and bam, Hendricks is going to get his 4th sack of the entire season so far, and more importantly, he will also get the safety, and that does expand it to a 13-point game. Later on in the game, we will see Southeast Missouri State's next possession following the safety that they managed to get, and Pollard doing his best to maintain the offensive efficiency, but he is not at the same level that Travis Johnson is, the sophomore custom, as Pollard will drop back. That does have a clean pocket to work with and proves me wrong right away. Oh my goodness, you want to talk about putting that one right on the money? That's exactly what we saw from Lance Pollard, who just had that clean pocket to work with, and Southeast Missouri State, they will actually run away with this football game. They will end up winning by a final score of 29-6, proving that performance against Eastern Illinois, it is more of an aberration instead of a trend that could have very well happened. Skyhawks, meanwhile, they do end up losing their first game of the season, and given that they did play up against a top 25 opponent but did not play particularly well, we'll see what happens to them in the polls. So as we see a wrap up of the afternoon games, let's check in on other scores around the FCS for the first time. And we start with James Madison, who just now got themselves back in the AP top 25. They come in ranked number 25 and had a close game against Delaware State. Is this a turning of the page for the Delaware State Hornets, or is this year going to be an aberration? Good job by James Madison, though, escaping with this win. However, that being said, outside of the top 25, we do get a blowout. South Carolina State in the Orange Blossom Palomino Classic, taking place in Tallahassee, Florida. They blew the doors off of Florida A&M as South Carolina State wins 41-3 as they try to get back in the top 25 as well. Also, in terms of blowouts, we see some rivalry game action between the Dartmouth Green and the Princeton Tigers, and Princeton's able to dominate in Ivy play, winning 40-10 in order to get their second win in the year. As for the Temple Owls, they come in ranked number 21 for this week, and they played host to former Division III school St. Thomas, but St. Thomas played tough in this one, eventually falling 27-21 as Temple improves their record to 4-1. As for blowouts, North Texas actually gets a huge blowout in Sunbelt Conference play. They blow the doors off of Arkansas State 38-0 as North Texas is now 4-2 here on the season. Akron also securing a blowout in their conference action as well, as they come in number 14 in the country, blowing the doors off of Buffalo the Akron Zips win 52-20 to get the 6-1 on the year. But some great shootouts as well in the FCS Dynasty, as Chattanooga is able to pull the upset on the road. 43-41 ends up being your score in overtime that we ended up seeing. Arkansas Pine Bluff likely going to fall out of the top 25 with this 2-point loss. Someone that will try to get themselves into the top 25 though is Alabama State, and this is a good way to do so, winning 42-6 in conference play as they easily dispatch Prairie View A&M. San Diego State, meanwhile, continues to roll through the regular season, as this time they take down South Dakota State. 51-24 ends up being your final score, as they end up remaining undefeated. Also remaining undefeated, or at least doing pretty well, is the Rice Owls, as they went to the city of Brotherly Love. Rice wins 24-7 to bolster their current resume. However, the same could not be said for the Eastern Carolina Pirates, as they came in number 24, a recent entry into the AP Top 25, but they will be leaving after a 3-point loss to Hofstra at home. But now we go ahead and jump into the primetime hour, and the games just get better. We got number 1 Georgia Southern playing host to Southeast Louisiana, as the Southeast Louisiana Lions, they are on the verge of getting into the top 25, but they got a really tough test here. This Georgia Southern team, they got some guys, and they are really have a bone to pick with the rest of the NCAA, as they were so close to making it to winning that national championship last year, as early on Ikeda Woods tries to punch it in the end zone by himself, but can't. Not only does he not get into the end zone, he doesn't even punch it in. He puts that ball on the ground, and Southeast Louisiana, they actually are going to go about making a stand here. So, you know, Georgia Southern, they're in a tight one early. It's only 2-0. As now, Ikeda Woods throws to the left-hand side, finds his tight end, Aaron Smith, who's going to be able to go ahead and find the end zone. Touchdown, Eagles. And Georgia Southern, they finally get that first touchdown on the board off a Ikeda Woods touchdown through the air. And now we're looking at a 9-0 lead. Later on in the second quarter, meanwhile, Ikeda Woods trying to pitch it out to the right-hand side, looking for Blake Williams, but looks like there was a little bit of miscommunication. It was fumbled once again, and now a chance to possibly make this just a one-score game, but it is not going to be easy. Mateo West, he will make the catch, but Drew Brown, he takes a shot in the process. And now it's 3rd and short. He's going to need to stand in the pocket. He does find his row in the left-hand side, and it's going to be caught. Touchdown, Southeast Louisiana. And now just a 2-point game and a chance to take the lead. They're going to go for the lead. It's in the air, and that's caught as well. Oh my goodness. How about this passing effort from Drew Brown and this receiving core? One of the underrated receiving cores that we have here in the FCS, as DeAndre Dowdell II could not get a hand on the football. As now Brown looks over the middle of the field, and Mike West, the freshman redshirt, he will put those hopes and dreams to an end, as that does end up getting intercepted. But there is a 5-yard face mask. It does give Georgia Southern a little bit more breathing room. Later on in the drive, as Georgia Southern tries to put points on the board before the end of the first half, and that is going to get intercepted as well. Ikeda Woods and company will make the tackle, but the Southeast Louisiana Lions, man, they are staying in this game. They are not going anywhere, and they do manage to get a field goal as well. So 1-point lead in favor of the Lions. Can they build off of that? Drew Brown in the shotgun formation. He will try to throw this ball downfield. He's going to let it loose down the right-hand side, and it's caught. Touchdown, Southeast Louisiana. And the Lions, they extend their lead. They will go for the extra point, and the extra point attempt, that will also be good. And it's 17-9. So a very interesting development. Number 1 team on upset alert. How does Ikeda Woods respond? Going with the option. It goes to the fullback, and the fullback, he I thought he was going to punch it into the end zone, but puts the ball on the ground when a safety came in, put his helmet on the football, and those big hog mollies at fullback, they have no idea where that ball was, to be honest with you. Tough look, but Southeast Louisiana, they can't take advantage, and Georgia Southern will eventually punch it in on their next drive. They do find the end zone, and it will be a touchdown for the Eagles, and they will try to go for the 2-point conversion. It's no good. So the number 1 team in the nation still down by a couple of points. As the next possession for the Lions, they do end up punting this one away. Gets it into the dynamic hands of Blake Williams, who's down the sideline. Nobody is going to be able to catch him as he's going to high step his way all the way into the end zone. Touchdown, Georgia Southern. In the lead for the first time since a 2-0 lead. Georgia Southern is up ahead, but Ikeda Woods doing everything he can to make sure that doesn't happen. Ikeda Woods, he is going to put the ball on the ground once again. And now the Lions, they got a chance to take the lead once again. 4:48 to play. Brown looks to the right end zone, but it's going to be deflected away. Lots of traffic over there, but it will end up being broken up. Can the Eagles secondary continue to hold? 2nd and 10 now. Brown, play action, facing some pressure, throws it up over the middle of the field. It's caught! It's caught! It's somehow caught by a huge, big-time player. Touchdown, Lions! And with 4:40 left to play, the number 1 team in the nation just might be going down. I mean, look at this throw and catch. I don't know how you managed to pull that off. So a wire to wire finish we are looking at. It's a close one. Less than a minute left to play. Georgia Southern, they got it all tied up from a field goal. This would be for them to take the lead and possibly win this football game. And Blake Williams does just that. Touchdown, Georgia Southern. And a dynamic running back making a dynamic play at the best time. And now if this defense can hold up, this game is going to be barbecue chicken. 25 seconds left to play, and they got to march down the length of this football field. This is not a good start, as Tony Gray is going to get his first sack of the game. And now that will get Southeast Louisiana to the line. 10 seconds left. Brown looks over the right-hand side. This is for a first down. He's going to get it. That's a big-time throw. 6 seconds left to play. And it's all going to come down to this final play. 2nd and 10 from the 33-yard line. You got to go to the end zone. Brown facing some pressure. Gets off of him. Throws it up. Trying to get it out to Mateo West. But he cannot haul it in. And Tyson Williams will get his 2nd interception of the season. He will kneel it in the back of the end zone after he catches it. And Georgia Southern, this was a tough battle, but Georgia Southern's going to win this one. 31-24 is going to officially be your final score in this one. This was a very competitive game, and it just goes to show how deep some of these conferences are, even among the teams that are not really competing for that FCS playoff spot, or at least not ranked in the top 25 as of right now. We almost witnessed a number 1 team in real time be replaced by somebody else, but Georgia Southern, they found a way to win. But let's go ahead and go back over to the West Coast, as we got some rivalry game action here in the Big Sky Conference. We got Northern Arizona, who is also just sitting outside the top 25. They take on the number 19 ranked team in the nation, the Montana Grizzlies. As Montana, they put together that really good recruiting class to try to remain prominent, but we'll see if that recruiting class can really start showing up here in these big moments, as Northern Arizona, while not as talented on paper, they got themselves a very experienced football team. And if Montana's going to win, Jameson Skinner, he has to come through. 4 touchdowns, but has thrown 7 interceptions so far. Not what you want to see from your quarterback. You want to see Tyrone Wolf have those interceptions instead, and that's exactly what we're going to get. The true freshman, that is Henry Wells, who will get his 2nd interception of his young career. And that is how you help your offense out when you see some struggles. You got to make some plays on the defensive side of football. Let's see if Montana can capitalize. A couple plays later, play action. Looking, Skinner looks to the right-hand side. He throws it away, and it's intercepted as well. Oh, no. It is going to be returned all the way to... No, he's going to keep going. He's not brought down just yet, as Mario Matthews actually could not bring him down. He's the #1 recruit from this past offseason's recruiting class. But a big-time mistake by Jamison Skinner, who has now thrown 8 interceptions in his true freshman campaign. We'll see how long they stay loyal to him, as Tyrone Wolf showing that he can play some football too, but his receiver, he's going to fold on him a little bit now, as we will end up seeing a fumble recovery. So the Montana defense, they're playing very optimistic defense here, but they can't do anything about it. Later on in the game, we're going to see the running back going to take the handoff. Look at all the defenders that he runs through, and with 32 seconds left to play here in the first half, we finally get some points on the board as James White makes 2, 3, 4, no, 5 defenders miss. And it's going to be a 7-0 lead for the Lumberjacks. As now, we'll go ahead and see Northern Arizona kick it off back to the Montana Grizzlies. We'll see if somebody can get some points on the board as Brian Hurst tries to return it out of the back of the end zone. But Northern Arizona, they are once again going to force a fumble and a couple of turnovers by both teams. But Northern Arizona doing a slightly better job of capitalizing off those turnovers. But yet, we still have a tight game here in the second half. Still sitting at 7-0 as Skinner is going to look to over the middle of the field. Does find his target, and that is going to be good for a first down. Key play there by the freshman quarterback, as that was on a 3rd and long. Still kept patient, let the route develop just long enough to make a really good decision. Although we will see an unsportsmanlike penalty after that. That brings up to a 2nd and 15. Skinner looks over the middle of the field. That's going to be intercepted. That is Skinner's 9th turnover of the season already. And this time, it is even more devastating, as we will end up seeing Northern Arizona take that all the way back to the crib. And that will be a touchdown for the Lumberjacks. Make that 14-0. So the Grizzlies, they got to get an offensive spark, and they got to get it right now. One of their running backs is on fire. They go to him. It's the true freshman, Mario Matthews, able to move it down the sideline. He's going to be brought down eventually, but that's a great run there by Mario Matthews. This is what we know he was capable of when he was in high school. #1 recruit in the country, and Mario Matthews is showing it, but here's a welcome to the college moment there. Getting absolutely chopped down by another true freshman, Charles Hurst, who definitely brought the hurt on that one, but it will not prevent a touchdown from being scored, as Montana will finally get themselves on the scoreboard with less than 10 seconds left to play in the 3rd quarter of action, and that was a nice grab as well. So back to a 1-possession game as Tyrone Wolf, he actually fakes the option and actually is going to throw it. It's caught. Touchdown. No, not a touchdown, but it does get them inside the 5-yard line though. How about bamboozling this defense completely, as we all thought it, man. Tyrone Wolf looked like he was going to run that speed option to the left-hand side. Instead, he let it fly, and it turns out that was the correct decision. So now, just a few minutes left to play, a chance to really put the nail in the coffin, as gets it out to White, the tailback, and Jeremy White is going to pull it into the end zone. Yet another score for the Lumberjacks, as Northern Arizona, they are fighting desperately to get into that AP top 25. And Tyrone Wolf, he's stepping up to the challenge for sure. So now, 2-possession game, and that ball has to be in the hands of Jamison Skinner, who's looking under center. He's going to throw it up in the air. He's got a target, but it's going to be intercepted, as Zach Moses is able to cover that space. He was on the opposite side of the field, came over, and that'll be turnover 2 that he forced all by himself in this game alone. And now Montana, if they are not in serious trouble yet, they're certainly in some deep trouble now. That's for sure. We'll see what Tyrone Wolf does with this possession. 2:50 left to play. I wouldn't be surprised if they ran some of this clock out. They go to the fullback, and oh my goodness, where does fullback go? He's going to be rumbling and stumbling down the field. Finally is going to be brought down, but that is Richard Anderson. That is his first time touching the football too. I mean, he made the most of that opportunity. I'll tell you what, inside the 30-yard line, and that allows the Lumberjacks to keep running time off the clock. But we will also see Northern Arizona ice this game, essentially. A 29-yard touchdown run for Jeremy White. That's going to seal the deal, it seems like, unless there is a miracle. And that miracle is not going to happen. Northern Arizona, they are going to win the football game. They win 28-7 in order to get to 4-1 on the season, whereas Montana, they have kind of underperformed expectations over the course of this season. They're going to be just 2-2 on the campaign, and if Montana's going to want to make the FCS playoffs, they got to be able to get things together. They're going to have to play extremely well in Big Sky Conference play, but Northern Arizona, they put themselves in a great spot. But that is not the only notable action happening in the Big Sky Conference here today, as we got Game of the Year implications right here. We got number 2, North Dakota State. They are taking on the number 5 team in all of college football, Sacramento State. And this game has absolutely massive ramifications. Whoever wins this game, they are going to essentially really put themselves in the driver's seat to win that automatic bid that comes from the Big Sky Conference. So we'll see who ends up turning out this dub, who is going to shy away from that contender status, who simply wants it more. And no surprises here, we got this game right here as game of the week. And Lee Corso actually going to be rocking with Sacramento State. We'll see if Lee Corso is right, as the Hornets are going to start with the football. We're going to go ahead and see this young quarterback drop back. The pass is DR McNair, the true freshman who is stepping in for the injured or suspended Carlos Hall. We got a huge first down to start this game, and that's how you want to start things out. Great initial throw, as now we go into a 1st and 10 from the 26-yard line. McNair, and by the way, making his very first collegiate start. We'll see how he handles this first drive. Can he finish it? As McNair, he's going to drop back, but faces absolutely bone-crushing pressure. That was Curtis Brewer that is able to knock the ball loose, and North Dakota State, they will take over, as unfortunately that was Jacob Hill that had that release block. And a wide receiver against a linebacker like him, that is not going to be a very kind mismatch to you in terms of blocking matchups. And this was a problem for the Sacramento State Hornets early in this game. We already see them turn the ball over a couple of times, one of which was DR McNair putting the ball on the ground, but the other time, being the receiver, receiver not, maintaining possession of the football. And now here comes the Bison. Purcell in the option, going to get it out to the left-hand side. He's got some space to work, and is in the end zone. Touchdown, North Dakota State. And the Bison are going to get a 15-yard touchdown. And the Bison are going to strike first here in California's capital. And we'll see if they can build some capital for themselves here, as Purcell is going to run into the end zone himself. So a 14-0 lead for the Bison. They definitely look like a team that has played in these big spots before. Sacramento State, this is kind of new for them, being in this kind of position. Not a team that has made the FCS playoffs before, mind you, but North Dakota State, they are giving them a hard lesson, and they are giving that difficult lesson quickly, as Sacramento State, they are simply looking outmatched at the moment. So we'll see if the Hornet offense can hold it down. 1st and 10 from the 38-yard line. Purcell lined up under center. as we'll see if they run the football once again. It's a halfback dive to Ken Anderson. He bounces it to the outside. He puts the ball on the ground. It's a scramble for it. And it's going to be recovered by Sacramento State. Okay. Sacramento State, that might be the play that sparks them, as Dickerson was the one that got the football on the ground. And now here comes the Hornets. 3rd and long. McNair throw it to the right-hand side, looking for Espinoza, but unfortunately overshoots him, and it ends up being yet another turnover for Sacramento State, the second of which that Dr. McNair is responsible for. So now we jump into the 4th quarter of action. It's now a 17-0 lead as McNair does step up to the pocket here and does throw a dime out to Espinoza. Gonna need some more plays like that if you're going to be able to try to make this comeback happen. They're gonna have to go quickly though. Few plays later, 3rd and 9. McNair, he's got max protection, throws towards the end zone, and Espinoza does go out of bounds, but not before getting both feet in bounds. Just a nice placement on that football. They're able to get it to the 1 yard line, and we will see Sacramento State finish the drive off, and they will not be blanked in this game, but still down by 10 points here. We'll see what they do on the kickoff as they kick it off to Ken Anderson. He's a dangerous weapon with that orange visor, not to be mistaken, and it was great coverage by Sacramento State, except nobody even bothered to actually try to go ahead and bring him down. So how about that for a Houdini effort there, as Ken Anderson puts the lead back up to 17 points. And now the Bison in a perfect spot to put this game away, except the Hornets are going to show a little bit of fight left. Josh Purcell is going to put the football on the ground. Here comes the Hornets. 3 minutes left to play in the game still. McNair drops back to the left-hand side. Nice ball. And it's going to continue to keep going down the sideline. And it's going to be a touchdown for Sacramento State. How about that throw by McNair? Just allowed his receiver to, make a play on the football and allow those yards after the catch, make something happen there. But unfortunately, it was a little too late, as it did make the score a little bit better, but the result is still going to be the same. North Dakota State, they end up winning by a final score of 24-14 in this game. It was a competitive game. It was a little bit of a low-scoring game. Actually been a surprising number of low-scoring games that we have witnessed thus far. But the Bison, they could very well make a strong case to be number one, not only because they won on the road against a top 5 team, but also because of the struggles that we saw from Georgia Southern. Something to look out for. But we will go ahead and check in on another top 10 team that is looking to go to the FCS playoffs for the first time since all the way back in year number 1. We got the Southern Jaguars, who are 3-1 and are now number 9 in the country. They will take on the Delta Devils of Mississippi Valley State, who's had a solid season. They have started out 2-0, but they have lost their last couple of games. We'll see if Mississippi Valley State can break that losing streak and in the process pull off a top 10 upset, but they will have to find a way to stop the former number 1 recruit Justin Jones, who was the number 1 prospect in high school football back in that year 1 off season. Now getting his first full year as the starter at the quarterback position. He did spend most of his time at wide receiver the last couple of seasons, and right away seeing those wide receiver instincts, able to get out of the pocket, but then throwing an interception there, unfortunately. Was looking for Zoo Animal, who is also a true junior. He actually plays both sides of the football. He mainly plays at that defensive back position, but could not use those ball skills that he learned as a DB. And Justin Jones going to throw yet another interception. That is actually number 6 on the season for him. And really not a lot happening there in the first half. It's still only 6-3. Either team can win this thing, but then we start to see Southern maybe open things up a little bit as Charlie Moore gets his second interception of the season. Does catch it off the deflection, but hey, man, you got to do what you got to do sometimes. And now here comes the Southern Jaguars to see if they can capitalize off the turnover. They're in prime field position as of right now. 2nd and 10 from the 37-yard line. Few plays later, as Jones faces a little bit of pressure, does float this one up the right-hand side, and it's actually going to be caught. That's Chris Walter that is able to use his big body and throws it just to a spot that only his guy can make the catch. And that's the talent of Justin Jones. You see those plays, and no wonder that people were really excited about him coming out of high school, as is this run right here. Nasty spin move, and Justin Jones is going to get into the end zone. Touchdown, Jaguars. And that is actually going to be the first touchdown that we see in this entire game, and really had to work for it. Had to make a spin move and then fight through a couple of defenders as well. Opens it up to a 10-point game as we go into the final quarter of action now. Looking over the left-hand side, and Justin Jones going to throw yet another interception here. That is going to keep Mississippi Valley State. The Delta Devils are going to remain in this ball game. We'll see if McCoy can bring them back. Unfortunately, that was not the case. They end up going 3 and out. So still a 13-3 game, as Jones once again throws to that left-hand side, and again finds Zoo Animal there, who has made a couple of tackles on the defensive side of the football, but also very nice catch there. Able to get that 10 toes down movement going as well. And a chance to possibly start running a little bit of clock. Is 3rd and short. Jones looks over to the tight end, able to dump it off to him, but he forgets about the football, and it's going to be recovered by Mississippi Valley State. The Delta Devils, they are fighting hard, trying to remain in this game, but they can't do anything on offense, though. It's been, those types of days for them, but Southern, with all of their turnovers that they've had in this quarter alone, they've had 2 fourth-quarter turnovers, which is really bizarre to see a team like Southern have those kinds of struggles. And now they can go ahead and get some of that time off the clock, as Jones, he's going to try to actually throw it here on a 3rd and long, and it's yet another interception. They're really doing everything possible to keep the Delta Devils in this football game. This is less so Mississippi Valley State playing good defense. I mean, the coverage was good there. You just got to recognize the situation, and if there's really no one open, you got to either throw it away or, make some kind of scramble. So Justin Jones will eventually learn from that. This was not one of his best games, but the rest of the team does end up coming through as we get a critical touchdown by Chase Pace, as that makes it 20-3 your score, as that will maybe seal things up. We'll see if Mississippi Valley State can at least make the score look a little bit interesting. As we look over the middle of the field, we do see Andrew Berry make a play down the sideline. Will Zoo Animal catch him? No, he cannot. Neither Animal or Joseph Pierre Martin can catch him. So Brandon McCoy does at least get one touchdown that he is able to throw. But at the same time, Southern will end up prevailing anyways. It's just one of those things that makes the score look a tad bit better. But the Southern Jaguars are going to win in spite of a struggling performance from Justin Jones. It certainly could have been better. He has been in the system for a few seasons now, but still able to win the game. That's really what matters the most, and they should remain in the top 10. But if they want to really make some noise, should they get the chance to play in the FCS playoffs, because that is never going to be a given, then they really need to do a better job taking the football over, because they lost the turnover battle big. So for the last game that we got going on in this episode, the last gameplay will feature some more Ohio Valley Conference action, as we will check in on the number 12 team in America, the Eastern Kentucky Colonels, as they go on the road to take on the Tennessee State Tigers, as the Tigers are sitting at 2-2 right now, right in the thick of things in the Big Ten Conference. A win for Tennessee State would go an extremely long way for helping them get back into the FCS playoffs as well. But of course, nothing is a given. We did nearly see the number 1 team in the land fall victim to the upset We'll see if we get something like that happen as well in this game against Eastern Kentucky, as Eastern Kentucky trying not to waste any time. 1st and 10, their first drive of the game, and Coates gonna throw it in the back of the end zone right away, and it does end up being caught. Touchdown, Eastern Kentucky, and the Colonels going right to work right away, as they're trying to prove at their game against Jacksonville State last week that was, not the typical Eastern Kentucky team. They're trying to send a message, as Tennessee State also looking over to the left-hand side. That actually does end up getting caught. That will get the Tennessee State Tigers at least across that 50-yard line. That's a big-time throw. You love to see that type of throw being made at all times. We'll see if they can build off of that, as Tennessee State, they have really struggled there on the offensive end over the course of a season, and it's mainly because of those issues on the offensive line, as Dylan Thomas, he just simply had nowhere to go with that football and takes a 5-yard loss because of that, as Thomas will look to throw to the left-hand side, does complete the pass, and he was really starting to find a rhythm as well. He does complete 3 consecutive passes, but we also see the ball get put on the ground. Eastern Kentucky, they are going to recover the fumble as well, and that is really a mentally deflating thing to see. You drive the ball down the field, your first possession of the game, and you do that. You hate to see it. So now Eastern Kentucky, they enjoy a multi-possession lead here, but Dylan Thomas, he's gonna throw one right on the money. Huge first down for the Tennessee State Tigers, as they once again are going to threaten at least on the verge of field goal range, as this throw had to be perfect, and it absolutely was. The defender had no chance to bat that football away. We'll see if Tennessee State can finish the drive. Looking, Thomas over the left-hand side, finds his same receiver, and all of a sudden, we got a 1-possession game. Touchdown, Tennessee State Tigers, and it's just a 3-point difference. We'll see if Coates can answer that score. He wants to throw downfield, and he's going to actually get the catch downfield as well, as that looks like Leon Rose that is going to make the catch for Eastern Kentucky. One of the running backs out of the backfield able to make a difference. So now inside the 30-yard line, and Coates will throw again. This time just a curl pattern, and the curl pattern works as Ryan Vaughn is going to score for Eastern Kentucky. 17-7 now your score, and that's exactly what you want to see from your starting quarterback. Coates able to remain calm and cool under pressure, and now a 10-point lead. Later on in the second quarter, Coates looks to the right-hand side. This time, he gets it out to Johnson, and Johnson nearly scores as well. A touchdown-saving tackle by Marcellus Wallace, as the defensive back that was trying to cover him initially, he looked absolutely lost. But still, goal line situation for Eastern Kentucky, as they'll look to punch it in. And they will do just that. That will end up being yet another touchdown for Eastern Kentucky. That makes it 24-7, as Rose able to find the hole and just run right through it. As now Tennessee State, they're just trying to get to that locker room, because right now they're really starting to see this game slip away a little bit, and it's really important for games like this that you keep your crowd involved. And I believe that is Bruiser Buchanan, the true freshman that is able to keep his guys alive here, and we got ourselves a ball game all of a sudden. Later on in the third quarter, Coates under center, looking to punch it downfield. He gets it out to the tailback, who makes a nasty spin move in the open field. And that, I'm not saying that fat lady is singing just yet, but that's a really nasty spin move. And Tennessee State now down by 27 points. Going to have to be all Dylan Thomas, it seems like, if they are going to come back and win this football game. But on a 3rd and long, gets sacked once again. The pass rush has been absolutely infuriating to deal with. That might have been Marshawn Palmer that got the sack. And now Tennessee State, they got to punt the football away once again, but the ball gets put on the ground. Ryan Vaughn, that's the return man. And Vaughn, unfortunately, gives Tennessee State an additional opportunity, which the Tigers cannot take advantage of. So you hate to see it, and it still remains 34-7 because of that. Jumping into the fourth quarter now, coach trying to put this game away as coach decides to run with it here. He has some open space. No one's going to even touch him as well. And guys, I think that fat lady is officially singing, there will not be an upset here in the fields of Tennessee as Eastern Kentucky. They will handle their business. They do make a legitimate case as well to be a top 10 team. And Eastern Kentucky will ultimately win this game by the final score of 48-7. I mean, Tennessee State, they had their opportunities to stay in this game between the turnovers. They had some decent plays as well that they were able to string together, but they just couldn't finish. And the lack of execution in those key moments, that's the ultimate difference in this one. So before we go and check out some of the post-week stuff that we got going on here, man, let's go ahead and check out some scores from the late afternoon, early evening slate. We'll start with Wofford going on the road to take on Sam Houston State in conference play, and the Bearcats were able to take care of business, winning 26-6 in order to remain undefeated here in season number 4. As for Eastern Michigan, they will also remain undefeated as well as they took on a conference opponent in the MAC. Western Illinois played tough, but they are going to lose 27-14. That brings their record down to 1-4, while the Eagles get to remain undefeated. As for SMU, the Mustangs played South Dakota in non-conference action, and SMU was able to prevail, winning 38-28, bolstering their record up to 5-1, while South Dakota falls to 1-5. Utah State also able to do the same thing as they hosted Northern Colorado in WAC action. They beat Northern Colorado 48-20 as Utah State Aggies get to 6-0 here on the season. But we do get one big time upset though, as Texas Southern came in number 10 in the country, but they are going to fall on the road to the Alcorn State Braves. Alcorn State getting a big time victory, winning 38-31. They're up to 3-2 now. Also, just barely avoiding that same fate though is New Hampshire. They actually go to overtime against Delaware in what was a rematch of the conference championship game back in year number 3. And New Hampshire, they do ultimately get their revenge, but it was close. 27-24 was your final score. So when the chips were down, according to Sports Illustrated, that game in a week could have huge implications in the AP Top 25. So if all the games now completed here in week number 7, let's go ahead and take a look at what that AP Top 25 is looking like. And we do have a new number 1, North Dakota State. They are now number 1 in the entire country. So North Dakota State and Georgia Southern did switch spots. San Diego State and Eastern Michigan, as well as Utah State, they all get themselves into the top 5 as well. Outside of the top 5, we got Portland State now at number 6 in the country. They move up a couple of spots. Southern moves up 2 spots as well after their win against Mississippi Valley State. Rice is up 3. Sacramento State only moves down just 4 spots, even though they did end up taking their first loss of the entire season. So really like that Sacramento State, they do not get punished for their loss to the new number 1 team in the nation. Eastern Kentucky moves up a couple of spots after their blowout against Tennessee State, and I would argue they are the most impressive team here of this week. Sam Houston State moves up 2 after a 20-point win over Wofford. We also got Akron with a 30-point win. They're now number 12 as well. Moving into the second half of the AP Top 25, Southeast Missouri State, their 23-point win does get them to number 13 in the country, followed by SMU, and we do also have New Hampshire. New Hampshire did beat Delaware narrowly. They're now number 15 in the entire country, and that is also followed by Western Carolina, who had a really bad loss against Jackson State, so they got punished heavily in the polls there. Kent State with their gritty win against Central Michigan, they're up a few spots. Temple moves up a few spots as well after a close win against St. Thomas. And then rounding out the top 25, we got Texas Southern at 19. after a loss to Alcorn State. Northern Arizona beat Montana, and they are now in the top 25. Now, number 20 in the country. Tennessee Martin still hanging in there, falling just a few spots. James Madison back up to number 22. Then we also have a couple more newcomers. South Carolina State and Weber State are back in the AP poll, with Montana hanging in at number 24. Now, we do have some movement, in terms of teams that did end up dropping out. And Central Michigan, Arkansas, Pine Bluff, and Eastern Carolina, they are all no longer in the top 25, but almost all of those schools are receiving votes. Tennessee Tech is leading the way with 188 votes, followed by Samford, Western Kentucky, Maine, the Citadel. Southeastern's in there as well after a close game against Georgia Southern. And then we see Arkansas, Pine Bluff, and Grambling State as well. As for the Heisman Trophy race, we still see Jonathan Bauer sitting at the very top right now. After a 2-touchdown performance against South Dakota State, he now has 13 touchdowns on the year, so is currently still sitting at number 1. Ryan Vaughn is right behind him. He was a Heisman finalist back in year number 3. He is back in that conversation as well. 220 yards and 2 touchdowns. And then Dustin Arnold remains in third place as the sophomore from Utah State. He's able to get 5 total touchdowns against Northern Colorado. That being said, we still have some movement in the Heisman watch as Darrell White makes his name felt. The 4th best player on the Heisman watch now. He has 12 total touchdowns on the season, and he helped with that 28-7 victory over the Montana Grizzlies. And finally, rounding out the group is junior quarterback Jesse Young, representing for the SMU Mustangs. He already has 22 total touchdowns on the young season. But guys, that is going to wrap things up here for week number 7 action. We are already halfway through the regular season here of the FCS Dynasty, and I hope you've been enjoying it. And if you have, do me a huge favor, you guys, and go ahead, smack that like button for me. Hit that subscribe button as well if you do happen to be brand new to the channel. This is John J Gaming on the mic signing off. I'm hoping you're all out there having a good one. Take care, everybody.